this next clip, and I mean, this one's just factually incorrect. This is Rachel Notley implying that Pastor Artur Pawlowski was charged with calling on violence against police officers. So, I mean, this is shocking. I'm assuming Pastor Artur's lawyers have probably seen this, but let's play it.
Yeah,
who
and
was
this is exactly
started
what I
by
was
bringing
thinking.
in the Sovereignty Act, an act that her former finance minister very clearly said was going to chase away investment because it undermined the rule of law. That, of course, was before she was found today to have broken the law in an effort to support the private interests of someone accused of wanting to promote violence against the police. All of that chases away investment because it is such a profound compromise to the rule of law.
Ms. Notley, it's you and the CBC who need to apologize for Albertans. You flat out lied for several months saying that I and my office had contact Crown prosecutors. She said that is absolutely not true. And she also confirmed that I did not direct or interfere in any COVID-related cases.
So that is, I'm sure, probably open to a lawsuit, implying
3 times.
publicly, yeah, that's
3 times Artur Pawlowski said peaceful during the demonstration, during that speech he made in Coutts. And this is revolving around the Coutts blockade incident, where Artur Pawlowski a day later was charged under the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act. And there was a court case that recently happened. Ezra Levant, obviously a commander-in-chief here at Rebel News, he was in Lethbridge to cover this court case as well. And yet here Rachel Notley is alleging that Artur Pawlowski was trying to have people commit violence in some way, shape, or form, when his charge was a critical infrastructure charge. It wasn't anything to do with him assaulting people. It wasn't, and it was all about him allegedly, possibly convincing people to stay at the blockade, even though they had decided earlier in the day that they were going to stay at the blockade. What does this have to do with violence, Rachel Notley?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah. And particularly, like, as you mentioned, repeatedly stating peaceful, and the charge being about not even blocking infrastructure himself, but allegedly, and this is going to be appealed clearly, inciting others to continue blocking infrastructure. That, like, and that's clearly, I mean, we were there firsthand. They opened that road. If there was like truckers with livestock or anyone needing to get through, they weren't actually even fully blocking the road at all times. But what's wrong? What the problem is here is Rachel Notley will characterize and mischaracterize and misconstrue. I don't know if she's misinformed here, which, as someone who's spoken to this 4 weeks, is embarrassing, or if she's overtly lying. But this is factually incorrect, and it characterizes Pastor Artur Pawlowski in a horrific light. To say repeatedly that he incited violence against police officers is unbelievable. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. I'm sure there will be a response coming, but I did want to highlight that troubling clip. 2 more clips, and then we're going to get into some more broader news beyond the election. So bear with us. I think the next clip that we're going to jump to is the clip of Premier Smith slamming Rachel Notley over her governing record and the massive debt that she accrued, over $70 billion, and her unwillingness to stand up to Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau.
I know Ms. Notley likes to show grainy videos of things I said while I was on radio. And the reason she does that is she doesn't want to run on her record. And the reason she doesn't want to run on her record is it was an absolute disaster. She racked up $70 billion in debt, more debt than any premier, actually all premiers combined in Alberta's provincial history. She talk about deception. Did you remember her running on a carbon tax in the last election? I sure didn't. And that increased the cost of everything. We eliminated it, but Justin Trudeau wouldn't let us keep it off. And now Ms. Notley has not stood up to her boss, Jagmeet Singh, in Ottawa, and worked with us to say don't increase that carbon tax any further. And in fact, certainly don't increase it 300%. No one has any credibility talking about affordability as long as they support a carbon tax, which is going to increase the cost of everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you look at, and we talked about this yesterday, like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh are not popular at all here. And it's incredibly interesting to see that particularly in Calgary, that Rachel Notley and the NDP are potentially, according to some polls, gaining a little bit of ground. It's unbelievable. You have ideological doppelgangers, whether it be Trudeau, whether it be Jagmeet, whether it be Rachel Notley, or Calgary's activist mayor Jyoti Gondek. Calgarians oppose the ideas when they're represented federally, but then when you have radicals with those perspectives locally, they seem to get they seem to get elected. I can't quite wrap my head around why that is. I know municipally there was vote splitting, and there was some sort of strategic concerns that may have contributed to that. But what do you make of this sort of notion that someone who's espousing incredibly unpopular views in the vast majority of the province is actually threatening to form the next government?
It's a little daunting, I can't lie. I don't know what to think of that because I actually got here and became an Alberta resident right as the restrictions exemption program was coming into place. I thought I was escaping into salvation, yet, that turned out to be otherwise. But that was the UCP. That was Kenny. That was the Texas of Canada, right? That was my vision of it coming in a sense. And to think about what it would have been like if Rachel Notley was the one who was taking care of business in that sense, I never would have come to Alberta. I guarantee you, I never would have stepped foot in Alberta. And if she gets elected, well, that's going to be a scary thing. And I'm sure, like we saw last time, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that leave again.
I want to jump to this next clip as well. That Danielle Smith, for some people during the leadership races, some of her opinions weren't necessarily popular, and I had the opportunity to question her. Don't worry, team, I'm not asking you to pull up the clip from that, but I had the opportunity to ask her why she uses this sort of zero emissions language, and it is interesting to see in her rebuttal. She's like, "Listen, we can work towards carbon neutrality towards 2050. This close deadline is not at all feasible. So perhaps not popular among everybody, but a more measured response." So if we can pull that clip up, and then we'll discuss a little bit.
Aaron, in the intro, talked about shifting away from petroleum products, and I would say that is the Notley view of the world. That is certainly not my government's view of the world. We believe that we are going to reduce emissions, not that we are going to reduce oil and natural gas. We know that with all of the exciting things that are happening with carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and all the green technology, we can continue to have a robust, vibrant oil and natural gas sector for years to come. What we want to do is make sure that we're finding more opportunities for our products, having bitumen be used more for asphalt so it reduces the amount of emissions, having LNG export, which creates a brand new stream of income for us. We know that as long as we keep our energy industry strong, we're going to keep Alberta's economy strong. Ms. Notley won't do that. I will.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Ms. Notley, your rebuttal.
Well, there was actually some elements of what Ms. Smith said that I actually agree with. I want to create jobs producing energy. I want to create jobs upgrading our energy, and I want to create jobs reducing emissions. And reducing emissions is absolutely the focus. It's not about reducing or production. It is about emissions. The difference is that Ms. Smith and her caucus have spent much of their career pitting emissions reduction efforts against economic growth. And when we do that, we fail on both.
Well, notice how she's talking about energy, not oil, not gas.
Yeah.
She's talking about energy. That's her follow-up, and that's her trying to placate to Danielle Smith. She's chasing Danielle Smith because Danielle Smith owns it. And Notley, I mean, what was another thing that Smith brought up last night was the fact that the just transition, was it the just transition idea or the one preceding that, that Justin Trudeau was advocating for, he got from Rachel Notley. It's really hard to see the credibility in Rachel Notley at this point from my perspective.
Well, and what's interesting, and I love, I've been at a couple like small town halls early on where there was 20 people there, and Danielle Smith gets really excited talking about this, almost comedically so. She's kind of a nerd for this super nuanced energy stuff.
Well,
and I appreciate that some of what she talks about, she's like, no, we're going to keep selling oil. We've got the best oil in the world. Let's keep doing that. She's talking about actually bringing new industries in. Like, we can do carbon capture and sell that while exporting the cleanest oil. And I think that's an approach. Go ahead.
That's exactly it. Why not sell the environmentalists the tools that they're looking for?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, you want to do carbon capture? Oh, look, I got the best carbon capture. Looks like you're going to have to buy from me. I don't know if that's, Smith's plan or not. But why not do it better than them, just so that when they come back to you, calling for, the end of the world and whatnot because of global warming, well, you can say, look, we're the ones who set this whole operation up. We know how to take care of our stuff. We know the smell of our own stink, and you don't.
Yeah.
That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.